Okay, so welcome everyone to the third episode of Out of the Ground podcast. And as promised, today we have a special guest with us, who's a big fan of Virat Kohli. So that's why it's the perfect timing for this episode. So today's agenda basically is we'll focus the first few minutes talking about Virat Kohli, and then we'll move on and talk about the IPL auctions which just happened. So just to quickly introduce our guest today, so we have Gurtej Singh Nagpal, who is one of my closest friend. I know him from work. We've known each other for more than 10 years, and he's the biggest fan of Virat Kohli I know. This guy even has a life-size poster of Virat Kohli at his place, which he's probably going to show us today, or probably not. But he's really the biggest fan, so it could not have been a better time to have him on the show. Okay, Gurtej, over to you then.
Thanks, Gaurav. Hi, everyone. And just to make sure what Gaurav said is true, like here is a mug that I use very often. It's called Keep Calm and Love Virat Kohli. And I want to say a thank you to both the Saharan brothers for having me here and giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts. Like Gaurav said, I think the main topic for today is to talk about Kohli's captaincy. I just feel captaincy is one factor, especially in Indian cricket, that sometimes just call for a lot of controversies and debates. It is definitely a cumbersome task, especially in a nation like India, to keep all these talented players in one unit. And also, I feel there's this whole myth, again, in Indian cricket that the captaincy always gets assigned to the best player in the team. With that, I feel for the last 5 to 6 years, my personal opinion is that Virat Kohli has done a tremendous job as a captain. And I say this because I feel he really leads by example. And that's really been his mantra, wherein he's been able to create this exceptional value system. He's been able to create this culture within the team, which gives them a very go-getting, winning mindset always. His whole character is so infectious when it comes to the winning mindset, the intensity, the body language that he has, both on and off field. He always comes across as this volatile leader, so very different from the whole captain cool element that maybe Rahane or Dhoni have shown in the past few years. And I feel this distinct winning mentality is something that's really stood out for Virat Kohli, which is why I personally feel he's able to bring out the best, at least in a format like the Test series, because there you need that winning mindset more so, is what I feel.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I have a couple of things, and I want to pick your brains on that, Guru, a little bit as well. So Gurtej, also we affectionately call him Guru, and you'll hear me call Bob God of Bobo because that's my nickname for him. I either call him Bobo or Bobeshwar Pujara. Those are the two names he goes by because he's very slow on the uptake. So on Kohli, right? Like I think that there's two. This is a complicated question, right? Like I think he was obviously batting really well. Like just kind of for the historical perspective, he was given the captaincy, and I think that even elevated his performance levels even more for a certain period of time. And that's something that's been really good. I think there's two sides of this coin that I want to talk about, right? Like the first thing for me is this winning mentality, right? This idea that he leads from the front, like and I'm a huge fan of that, right? Like I grew up in a time where we were basically sledged like anything by those Australians, right? Like I grew up in the 90s where you had the likes of Shane Warne, Ricky Ponting, Glenn McGrath, all of these guys, and I mean, you still see that, right? Like that culture is still there. I have a lot of thoughts on, and I have no patience for this toxic on-field culture that the Australian team has, right? That's where I love Kohli because we don't take shit from anyone anymore with Kohli, right? Like I don't feel like we're sitting over there like nice, like spectacle wearing Indian engineering boys, like just doing our thing and like not like we get kind of like called out and like said, like, the Australians will say what they want to and we'll just shut up and take it, right? That doesn't happen with Kohli around. Like if you go watch the Test documentary, which again, totally understood that was mostly just a PR stunt by the Australian Cricket Board after their the scandal that happened with the ball tampering. That's probably a whole separate episode. But my point, just to get back to the point, is that whole idea of us taking shit from people all over the world just kind of doesn't happen anymore when Kohli is leading by the front, right? Because they know that Kohli is that fiery personality. He's going to give it back to them, right? That's what he's always said. We are not on the field to take shit from anyone, right? We're gonna give it back as hard as we get it, right? That I think is one side of the coin, and that's great. And obviously, he's one of the best batsmen in the world, right? The Fab Four, whatever you want to say, he's one of the best batsmen in the world. I think the other side of the coin is that he's a bit of a perfectionist, and he has very exacting standards for himself, and he that ends up kind of sort of waterfalling into the team a little bit as well, which is great because other people obviously also hold themselves to higher standard as a consequence of that. But I think there's also this thinking that when, like, I have worked for a manager, right, and this is kind of a similar situation where when things go to shit, like, he used to lose his temper, right? And like my point, and like, this is one of the best people that I ever worked for. But my point here with regards to Kohli as well is that um, when things are going south, you want your captain to be that sort of core, like, thing, that, like, that lightning rod who takes all the pressure, grounds it, but doesn't put that pressure on you. And I think that's where Kohli kind of falls short a little bit, like his exacting standards and his overall team persona and his temper on the field. I think sometimes ends up putting a little bit extra pressure on the team. That and then the other concern I have, and I'll stop talking and let you guys talk about it a little bit after this, is that I think that it has started to affect his batting a little bit. Where I think, and again, my sample set is pretty small, right? It's just the last few matches, but I think it started to, like, affect his batting a little bit, where all that pressure, while it may have elevated his batting before, is starting to show a little bit in his batting performances, I think. Thoughts, you guys? Guru, do you have anything specific, like, about the other side?
One thing I just wanted to quickly add, I agree with your point as well, Vaibhav. I feel given Kohli's stature and personality, especially in Indian cricket, he definitely has this persona that he's someone who's brash and like, just in general, someone who's in your face, right? Like most of those Australian opponents that you spoke about. I feel that is true. I do agree, but it also brings out the best in him. But I think you're raising some of the right questions. That does it also bring out the best in the team? And obviously, I think there is some scope of improvement for every leader, for that matter. But all in all, I just felt, given this whole winning mentality, given the fact that he endorsed this five bowler theory in Test that worked really well for India, his aggressive nature of going out there and seeking gold every time, I think that's what has also worked well for India in the past few years. Gaurav, what about you? Do you have any thoughts there to have?
Yeah, no, very very interesting points raised by both of you. Actually, the direction that I wanted to take on this is a slightly different direction, because for me, I think Kohli is someone who's absolutely nailed down marketing, and branding. And there are a couple of facts I wanted to tell you guys about this. So first one is, he's only one of the only two sportsmen in the Forbes top 100 who make more than 90% of their income through endorsements. The other one is Roger Federer. And the second one is that Kohli as a brand today is valued at more than 120 million US dollar. That's more than more than Dhoni at his peak, more than Tendulkar at his peak, more than any other Indian sportsman that I know of. And then when we talk about marketing, the key really is to understand your target audience. I think Kohli has done that really well. He knows his target audience are these 19 to 39-year-old people, millennials, who are mainly living in urban areas and big cities. And everything he does, whether it's the brands he endorses or the whole focus on fitness that he has, is all targeted towards this sort of target audience. If you think about the point that you raised on how he deals with the Australians when it comes to reciprocating to sledging, that he's the only one who's did that. I mean, we had the era of Tendulkar and Dravid and Ganguly who would just take it, right, and absorb all the sledging they would get. He's the person who gives it back now. So that's, again, I think, appealing more to the target audience, and that's for me. Okay, maybe it comes naturally to him, but it also works very well in giving him that image that he has. The second
100%.
thing, yeah, and the
Yep,
second
no,
thing,
keep going.
I'm not sure if you guys followed the post-match presentation, but something he did was he actually praised the Chennai audience for being a very intelligent audience after the second test match. I was thinking about, like, what is he trying to say, and then I started thinking about it. Chennai gives so much importance to education, and being called intelligent, they just went berserk when he said that. And I think what Kohli does really well is he really understands his audience. He really understands his opponents. And I don't know whether he's a better batsman than Tendulkar, a better captain than Dhoni, but he's definitely the most hardworking cricketer that I know for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, like, the branding point, like you think about it, right? Like we were trying to talk about this before. Like he makes off air, like he makes 17 crores, the highest in any app by like any player that's paid in any IPL franchise. And like, what is that for, right? Like the RCB has not won anything in the IPL, right? They barely make playoffs, right? But he's still the captain, right? Like, what other player who is not actually showing any results for that kind of money gets to not only be played every game but be the captain, right? Like, how does that make any sense? The only way it makes any sense is because IPL is ultimately a business, right? It's the number of views, it's the number of eyes, number of likes on your Twitter posts and stuff like that, right? And Kohli is the brand, right? Like RCB and Kohli are intrinsically kind of enmeshed with each other as a brand. So they can't get rid of Kohli, right? Like they have, they are writing that check and they will continue to do so because they are still making money as a franchise, right? I think I was looking at some stats and I don't have that off the top of my head, but like they continue to be one of the top two like followed franchises in the IPL. I think CSK, MI, and RCB are the three, and it's not surprising that it's those three, given the players that are in there, and Kohli for RCB, like they've done nothing in the IPL worth noting, right? But he still remains to be the captain and the highest player, paid player in the IPL as well.
Yeah, and Vaibhav, I think this is a great point because you've raised IPL as well. I feel even right now, there's this widespread discourse, even in the Indian media, right? Whether India should opt for split captaincy, should Rohit Sharma be the one who should get a chance to be a full time captain, at least in some formats. I think it'll be interesting to get everyone's thoughts on this. Should India adopt something like that? What do you guys think?
Baba?
Yeah, I think they should, to be honest, because I feel it's just adding too much pressure on Kohli at times, being the captain in all three formats. I think for me personally, I feel in the T20, we have a couple of candidates. So we've seen how well Shreyas Iyer captained the Delhi Capitals. He's definitely a good candidate. I also feel, we have Rohit Sharma as well, who can be another good candidate. KL Rahul potentially, I mean, I wouldn't say right away, but maybe going into the future, if he's able to also improve his captaincy, we can see him as a captain. So I think, yes, indeed, Kohli is a good captain for some formats in the game, probably the test, but in other formats, we should give a chance to others as well.
Yeah, I think I feel the same actually because even though I'm such a huge fan of Kohli, like we've been saying since the start, I feel at least when it comes to T20 cricket, I feel Rohit's style of captaincy, especially has a lot of admirers, especially given the current Indian setup, and that is because of the IPL and the number of times Mumbai Indians has been able to win it. And there have been so many times wherein Rohit Sharma, as a captain of Mumbai Indians, has been able to do that despite having some average players. So it's that skill set of a leader to not just be the front runner, but also get the best out of your entire team. So Rohit Sharma really knows the strength of each and every player, their development areas, and still setting everyone up for success. Whereas Kohli, on the other hand, I feel he's been the captain of Royal Challengers Bangalore (RCB) since such a long time. We know RCB also has struggled always with their bowling, and I feel despite knowing the limitations, there's always been this hesitancy. I feel Virat Kohli always sets high standards for himself, and then the team is supposed to look up to the captain, which is great. But has he been able to polish those skill sets of his teammates, at least in T20 cricket? I feel that is quite questionable.
Yeah, true. I mean, you have to give that responsibility based on the data set that you have to be scientific about it, right? You have like 14 seasons of IPL now to look at, which is all T20. You see the incredible successes that the Mumbai Indians have. Granted, like I think the Mumbai Indians have the best scouting system that any of the IPL teams have. Like there's this joke about like people basically won't vote, won't actually put their hand up in the auctions until they see the Mumbai Indians doing it, and then they jump in as well because they trust Mumbai Indians scouting more than they trust their own. So I think that's definitely a big factor. But then you have to give the captain the credit, right? Like that's the scientific way of looking at it. Rohit has done the best in the IPL, and I would think that he deserves that chance, right, in T20 as well, especially with the T20. I mean, it's not going to happen, right? Let's be honest about it. With the T20 World Cup coming up, it's not going to happen right now. If like India were to lose this T20s that are coming up with England at home, which again will not happen because it's at home, but like if it did, that would be a different scenario. But I think that I see my concern is it's definitely obviously about India winning as a team, but I'm also a little concerned about Virat doing well as one of our best batsmen, right? Like he kind of, it's not such an in the 90s thing where he carries the team, right? There's a lot of other talent, batting talent in the team, but but I think that we have always prided ourselves in India for our batting. I mean, obviously we have an excellent bowling squad now as well, but I think with if Kohli is in and out of form on an ongoing basis, that I think questions our world class standards as a batting side. And that concerns me a little bit. And I think that's probably the other advantage of maybe giving Rohit a chance in T20s and maybe Ajinkya a chance in Test cricket for captaincy, because you just have to be scientific about it.
Actually, just to very quickly add, I feel the irony also is that when we look at Indian cricket, we give so much importance to the IPL and we see IPL as this barometer for selecting everyone on their batting and bowling performances. But captaincy is a question mark. Like if you have IPL as a barometer for these other things, why not for captaincy as well? And I feel that's where Rohit Sharma, like you mentioned, has a clear edge over Virat Kohli at least.
And
Yeah.
the other point also to think about. So I know we are going to save the IPL discussions for later, but there are a lot of people who are really good IPL players who don't get a chance to play T20. Right, Surya Kumar Yadav is a good example, uh, because he doesn't get along well with Virat Kohli. So I think also that dynamic changes
Well,
when you
he
have
was just
someone like.
selected, just so you know, before he throw more shade on the Kohli Sky relationship. Sky as in Surya Kumar Yadav was called Sky sometimes. He was just
Really?
selected for the upcoming England tour. Yeah, it was either one days or T20s. I think it was T20s that he
Should
was
be
selected. They
T20,
just
yeah.
announced the T20.
He's a brilliant T20 player. Okay, so then I take away my grudges from Kohli if he was selected.
That was the only Kohli grudge you had, Baba.
But no, I mean, I mentioned a few other things, right?
No,
I
you did,
feel,
yeah.
yeah, I feel that, it definitely will take off an edge if he's not the captain all three formats. And yeah, I mean, let's see how this IPL goes, because we have the discussion later, but I think RCB has a good squad this time. Cool. So before we end the Kohli topic, because Gurtej won't be with us for the next part of the discussion, uh, Guru, would you like to say anything about the IPL, or which team you support, and any closing thoughts from your side?
Sure. I mean, as a typical Indian, I'm a huge fan of the IPL, always looking forward to every season. Ironically, again, my favorite team always has been Royal Challengers Bangalore, despite not having won any IPL trophy yet. And that's mainly been because of Virat Kohli. I've been following him right since the Under 19 World Cup when Virat Kohli lifted that trophy. I feel the passion that he brings uh, to his play basically is really something to watch out for. And I feel it sets an example for a lot of us who are not even professional cricketers. Like in our day to day field, I feel like I always want to bring my best foot forward because I see the Indian captain doing that. But having said all of that, I feel I'm really looking forward to this IPL season. Hopefully, he gets to lift the trophy. I know we say this every time. I think there's a great team, and especially with AB de Villiers as that big support system in the batting, I feel RCB always has an edge. Though a big question, and I look forward to you guys discussing it as well later, is the RCB bowling. That's always been something that they've just not been able to deliver on. So yeah, looking forward to the IPL. And before I leave, I also wanted to tell you guys a big thank you for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts. So thanks for having me here, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the discussion. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming on, Guru.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Guru. Great. So as we move to the next